Hi, I'm Krista Campbell. Welcome to the third webinar of our Business Continuity webinar series. Esri's electric, gas, water, and telecom teams are hosting these webinars to share COVID-19 resources and solutions that support business continuity. Today's webinar, Gaining Insights from Analytics, will highlight resources and data sets that are available to support your work. We will discuss and demonstrate how you can use data to better understand your customers. You will also learn how Esri technology supports a proactive approach to managing field staff, ensuring their safety and the safety of those you serve. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to watch again and to share with your colleagues. Please enter your questions in the questions dialog box. You can enter questions anytime during the webinar. We will answer questions at the end as time permits. Questions we do not get to will be answered in a Q&A document that will be sent to you along with a link to the recording. Joining me today is Matt Piper, Director of Electric, Gas, Telco, Water, and Architecture, Engineering, and Construction, Jonas Rugis, Solution Engineer supporting the Esri Water Team, and Anastasia Savchenko, Solution Engineer supporting our Utilities and Telecom teams. We have a packed agenda today. Matt will share resources and data sets that are available to support analytics and decision making. Anastasia and Jonas are going to walk you through demonstrations that show how business analysts can be used to better understand your customers and keep them safe. They will share how Esri technology helps you plan ahead using modeling, prediction, and visualization. They will also provide insight into managing changing demand across commercial and residential customers, as well as how you can stay current about employee health and how this may affect your customers. There's a lot to share, so we are going to right in. Matt?
Thank you, Krista, and welcome everybody. One of the biggest challenges organizations are facing around the world is how to gain insights from all the data sets and information available that surround COVID-19. How do you bring all these disparate data sets together? Data sets which are predominantly mastered outside your organization's authoritative data. And how can you make sense of it all to make meaningful and informed decisions? If you look at the left side of this diagram, we see some of the examples of the external data sets I'm referring to. Things like population and demographics, hospital resources, social distances restrictions, critical facilities, and models such as the disease spread. We then need to align this information with some of the new data sets that are being captured by your organization surrounding COVID-19. In our first webinar, we demonstrated how to capture information on your staff and facilities and where they are working from. On the lower right, we also see that this information needs to be analyzed in relation to your existing organizational data, information pertaining to your network and asset data, work order and planning data, and customer management systems. ArcGIS creates organizations by providing mapping, visualizations, analysis, data science, and data collection, and situation awareness through operational dashboards. For today's webinar, we're going to cover 4 focus areas for insights and analytics. We will demonstrate how ArcGIS can provide better understanding of your customer, your work plans, the network impacts, and finally, safety and compliance. Let's start with understanding your customers. A proactive customer engagement plan comes from understanding your customers' needs and the circumstances which may influence their behaviors. Through better understanding their position and how they are impacted, organizations attain better insights into how to respond. To achieve this, we need demographic information and information pertaining to COVID-19. Things like population, age profiles, economic analysis, who is working from home, and how vulnerable are customers in that community. To demonstrate how ArcGIS can help you better understand your customers through demographic enrichment and infographics, please welcome my colleague and utility solution engineer all the way from the Netherlands, Anastasia Savchenko.
Thank you, Matt. Esri Business Analyst Solution has over 15,000 of data sets in multiple categories such as population, income, health, education, business, marital status, etc. All this data is collected by census and available for you to use and start seeing patterns. It is available down to blood group level, and utilities can use this data, try to make a sense and decision making during the COVID-19 emergency response. So in this analysis, we're trying to understand where the most impacted areas by COVID-19 in our service area. We know that the most impacted population will be senior population. So I added variable categorizing the percentage of senior population down to blood group level, and the darker the more intense the color, the more risk-exposed blood groups among our service areas. Based on it, we can choose to optimize, for example, the routing of our field workers so that they can avoid the most risky areas while performing their daily routine. Next variable is showing the percentage of people who has no internet access at home. So the darker the color, the higher concentration of customers who experience difficulties to pay for their bill for the services because of the financial hardships brought by pandemic. For example, people who have no internet at home cannot perform remote work and probably are not working for time being. In Business Analyst, you can use variables from its database, or you can bring in layers from Esri Living Atlas and ArcGIS Hub. Both sources give you access to thousands of daily updated data sets that are providing you with information on COVID-19 demographic and economics. I'll grab this unemployment data set and that is characterizing the vulnerability data set and bring it to Business Analyst. And so another critical piece of information is this indicator that shows you vulnerability index. This is a measurement of the negative impact that the coronavirus crisis can have on employment based on the region's mix of industries. So on average, vulnerability index score is a 100, and it's representing the average job loss expected in the United States. The higher the score, and the higher the degree to which job losses may be greater than average. So the maximum score of 200 actually is going to indicate unemployment twice as large as the national average. But the real power of Business Analyst comes in place when you start combining several variables together. And I combined 3 of the variables I talked about, and I filtered out vulnerability index to show me only the areas with the higher than average vulnerability index. So as a result of this map, you can see blood groups in Naperville area that are where the majority of population is in a health risk group, and this is the population that is not working during the pandemic. Highest vulnerable areas with issues are indicating areas where our crews can actually be exposed to the higher health risk. And so let's not put our employees in danger, and let's use this map to reroute our field workers around these highly risk areas when they're performing their duties. And you also may want to be proactive and start reaching out to the customers who live in this blood group so that you can start offering financial payment plans and programs helping them to pay for the services. I can also use these infographics to make it me easily understand and summarize the analysis of the study that I just did. This infographic template shows you the key data points for the study area, such as insights about the demographics, households, confirmed cases, business structures, and structure of the demographics. And back to Matt.
Thanks, Anastasia. Those infographics can really help simplify complex data sets into consumable visualizations. From all the data that was shown, we're able to easily understand the overall COVID-19 impact, align this to customer demographics, understand where customers were potentially undergoing financial hardships due to economic impacts in their region, and finally, based on the spread and age vulnerabilities, we're able to identify high-risk areas where it may be better to defer work in those areas to potentially reduce the risk of exposing those higher-risk customers in that community. The second area we will discuss is around understanding your work plans. An optimized work plan comes from understanding the duration and then balancing the forecasted program of work with available resources, priorities, and impacts to the customer. To demonstrate how location technology allows you to gain insights from the Chime model and then apply this to your future planning requirements, please welcome our solution engineer from the water team, Jonas Rugis.
Thank you, Matt. Many organizations are using statistical models to better understand how to respond to COVID-19, and utilities are no exception. One model of particular interest is the COVID-19 Hospital Impact Model for Epidemics, or CHIME. This was developed by Predictive Healthcare, Penn Medicine, to assist hospitals and public health officials with hospital capacity planning. but it can also give us an idea of what to expect in terms of the larger outbreak and the associated social distancing requirements and stay-at-home orders. Output from models like these generate that familiar curve that we've seen on the news and people talking about social distancing and the impacts on this curve of peak hospitalizations. Now, this model's been implemented as a geoprocessing tool in ArcGIS Pro, and we can take GIS data as input and visualize that information geographically. So what we're looking at here is hospitalizations by county. This is information that's being reported by the municipalities, both at the state and the county level. But we can improve the quality of our inputs to this model by using some of those data sets that Anastasia had mentioned that are coming from Esri's Living Atlas of the World and other data providers. For example, one of these data sets is provided by Definitive Healthcare, showing hospital bed locations and providing up-to-date information on different types of beds and what's available across the country. Another data set is from data provider Unicast, and this is looking at social distancing scoring. So essentially using anonymized mobile devices and the change in average distance traveled from the pre-COVID-19 period, together with data on recent visits to non-essential venues, to determine a social distancing score for each county. And this is important when we enter in this social distancing percentage as the baseline and what to expect going forward in the model. So I've set this model for 200 days out to predict based on these current parameters. Now, you need to understand that there is a high degree of uncertainty about the details of COVID-19 infection, transmission, and the effectiveness of these social distancing measures. So any long-term projection made using this simplified model of outbreak progression should be treated with extreme caution. And the model results that I'm using in this demonstration are simulated, and these do not reflect the most up-to-date information for this area. Now, I've gone ahead and run this ahead of time, so let's take a look at the results. We can visualize the summary and the forecast by individual county, and this also generates that familiar curve. In this case, it's the simulated example 200 days out from the start. Where can we expect the peak of admissions to the hospital to occur? And this is a visualization that we can include in a series of information products for utility operators to help them better plan for the year of 2020, continuing to provide essential services, getting their work done while staying safe and complying with these guidelines. So the first of these information products is an operations dashboard, where we're looking at the planned, proposed, funded capital improvement projects across the service territory. And here at the bottom right, we've broken these down by the planned start date for these projects. So we can see that some is projected to start right now. Some are starting really at the peak of this curve. And this is really the type of work that requires multiple people working together, working with inspectors and contractors. Really not the best scenario when trying to comply with the social distancing guidelines. Also, if these projects will have an impact on essential services, that's going to be very disruptive to people working from home and kids in virtual classrooms, et cetera. So this is the type of work that a utility may want to look to push toward the end of the year when, based on the current information, it appears that hospitalizations and that these social distancing measures will have been reduced at that point. So what type of work can a utility push forward to the beginning of the year to keep people working and also continue to maintain the system while this other work is postponed? And that's really where preventative maintenance and this routine work comes in. So here we're looking at in this next operations dashboard, a view of all the preventative maintenance assignments for this utility in the year of 2020. Again, down here at the bottom right-hand side, we are looking at the due dates of these assignments, pretty even distribution with a spike, high concentration toward the end of the summer months. This is the type of work that individuals can be completing very often by themselves, going from their home to these different locations, not necessarily interacting with customers or other field crews, and really a good type of work to be tackling now during the peak of the outbreak and the social distancing measures. So to get an idea of how to reallocate this work using all available information, analytical tools like Insights for ArcGIS can be used. So in this simple workbook here, I've brought in the familiar curve from the model and also the new location of field crews based on their home location now and not working from a central shop. And over here on the left-hand side, I've pulled in some additional data, including these preventative maintenance assignments from the previous dashboard. First thing I'd like to do is just look at the due date breakdown by time and line that up with my chart here, 200 days out, and also take a look at some summary information about these assignments, like the type of assignment and their priority. And now we can take a look up in the map and see, okay, now that people are routing from their home location, where are they in proximity to these other assignments? So I'll go ahead, add the assignments as a new layer. We'll take a look at these. I'll make them yellow so they are a little more visible. There we go. We can do some simple analysis right here in the map view. In this example, just for the sake of time, I'll run a very quick buffer. So click my analysis button and see, okay, which workers are within a mile fixed distance from these different preventative maintenance assignments. Run that analysis and see the buffers appear here on my map based on where people live. We could also do some more advanced analysis like drive times right here in Insights. And for the sake of time, I've pre-cooked these 3-minute drive times from each worker location. But what I'm doing is essentially building out a fully functional dashboard that utility operators can use to really optimize their work plan, accomplish all the required work for the year, while keeping utility staff and customers as safe as possible. Back to you, Matt.
Thank you, Jonas. With the rapid changes to work plans and how this impacts customers, organizations need new ways to optimize the planning process. If this is not managed, there'll be large peaks in workloads that will be difficult to resource later in the year. Through better understanding of social distancing, we can also improve safety. And let's not forget, by understanding whether customers are working remote will influence when we perform service work, as no customer will be happy we impact their supply during the working week. Almost every industry has seen an impact in demand as a result of COVID-19. Some have seen massive reductions, others like telecoms are seeing large spikes as everyone now requires high-speed internet for work and the children are now doing online schooling. However, sectors like electric and gas are also seeing a shift in load from predominantly commercial to almost completely residential. What is very apparent is that to operate the new network requires a new understanding of how demand has changed and where new opportunities may exist. To demonstrate some of the out-of-the-box capabilities in understanding demand analysis and response using RTS Insights, please welcome back Anastasia.
Thank you, Matt. So let's take a look at how the demand profiles shifted. Residential demand is expected to rise as we shelter in place. On this right graph, you can see that the hourly profile for June 15th last year is represented by this bottom line, and it's much lower than the forecasted demand on the upcoming June 15th. It is especially true during the working hours because a lot of population actually working from home and is homeschooled. On the contrary, we know that overall demand of the electric network is actually decreasing, and that is in major part in this place the commercial sector that is significantly decreased the operations and slowing down some of the functionalities. So on the right graph, you can see that the expected hourly profile on this for the June 15th for the commercial sector is actually typical profile for last year is higher than the forecasted demand that is going to happen in this upcoming June 15th. And so the challenge here is to understand which individual circuits are serving the residential sector versus the commercial sector, and how do you handle the increased load of the residential sector without causing major issues happening to our network. So Insights actually allow you to combine the analytical graphs with the map representations and make decision-making based on it. Let's take a look. So what does it mean for utility company to have the increased residential demand? This map shows you the block group levels with the high percentage of people who's working from home, people who are actually using a lot of internet, and the people who are the children who's homeschooled. So what I want to do is I want to understand how is my network impacted by this rising centers of demand, residential demand. what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my medium voltage line to this map and really quickly visually inspect what are the parts of the network and sub-networks that are impacted by the centers of residential, increased residential demand. I can also bring my impacted transformer layer to this map and actually understand particular transformers that are impacted by this increased demand as well. And I can even go deeper down to the building level and understand a very interesting phenomena that is going to happen this summer and the shift demand because of the high penetration of rooftop solar. So this is the medium voltage line that coming in through the transformer. It goes down to service lines, down to customer meter. And these red dots are representing the solar, rooftop solar, which is the distributed generation that in typical times and during traditional times, during summer months is actually generating a lot of energy, and the demand on these buildings are quite low during the working hours when the high peaks of generation come in. And therefore, the surplus of that generation goes back into the grid. Now, during the COVID times, in summer months, we're going to have the opposite situation. The summer generation is going to be high, but the demand on these buildings are also going to be high. And that means that we're not going to send that much of the energy back to the grid. But what we need to understand is which transformers and which feeders are actually impacted by this shift of demand, and gather more information and start planning accordingly. So I have a very important piece of information here next to my map, which is the table that gives me a short information about the transformers. So when I click on the map, it is connected to this table and it quickly updates and gives me the necessary information about this particular transformer, such as asset ID, subnetwork, nominal operating voltage, etc. And so now I can start and gather important pieces of understanding of where the residential solar is, which transformers and feeders are mostly impacted, and start planning my operations and optimize the load in my circuits and balance my network. Now, let's take a look at the telecom industry. What happens in telecom industry is quite the opposite, because the people are working from home, they're studying from home, and that is actually increasing the demand, overall demand of the services substantially. So we're going to bring a series of maps and show how is this going to impact our telecom network. So the first map here is showing the percentage of children who is studying from home per block group. So these darker blue areas showing the larger amount of children that's studying from home. Now this map shows you the adult population that is working from home. So these areas in your service area are the mostly impacted by the people are working from home. More than that, we know that we don't even go outside for entertainment, so we actually streaming everything at home. So this map is going to show you not only the intersection between the children who are studying from home and people who are working from home, but also people who are using a substantial amount of internet services. And so these block groups highlighted in green are actually showing us the centers of demand for telecom services. And just to make it a little bit more powerful, we're going to add another variable to this map, and it's going to be bundled services that are actually existing in our study area right now. So these circuits highlighted in brown are actually showing you the bundled services, amount of bundled services per block group level, and the pieces, the parts on the map where we have a large green areas and the large brown areas showing us where the majority of the cell tower capacities are going to be maxed out, and maybe they're even reaching the capacities, and we need to enhance it by putting in extra capacities in place or switching things around. But this map also can show you the areas where, for example, we have a large demand for services like this block group, but then very small amount of bundled services currently existing, which actually gives us an understanding of the market penetration and maybe an ability to we can start sending marketing materials to this block group level, offering additional bundled services subscriptions. So back to Matt.
Thank you, Anastasia. For those not familiar with RTS Insights, it is purposely built to allow you to bring data together to find results and improve decision making. Through data insights, Anastasia was able to understand constrained capacity and potential overload issues on the network. She was also able to find potential opportunities for running incentive programs for things like solar schemes to offset peak demand, or perhaps new customers who require internet services. For the last area of focus, we're going to explore ArcGIS capabilities in helping organizations with safety and compliance. All utilities are safety first, and this applies to their staff and to their customers. The COVID-19 pandemic is like nothing we have had to monitor or track in the past, and as such, we need more insights to meet our safety obligations. Let's now look at the following scenario. Here we have 2 employees. Employee 2 has been assigned jobs 1 to 4, and they are starting their shift early. Employee 1 is at the top and only has 2 small inspection jobs to complete today, and they won't start their shift till much later in the day. Employee 2 begins their day. They have 4 work assignments. This work requires a specialized vehicle. They head into the depot, pick up their vehicle, and begin work. During the day, however, Employee 2 begins to feel unwell and returns the vehicle back to the depot and then heads home. Employee 1 is notified of the additional work that they now need to complete. Now, if we look at Employee 1 begins their shift, completes the 2 earlier assigned asset inspections jobs that they originally had, then heads into the depot to collect a specialized vehicle. They then continue on to complete the other 2 additional jobs. They then return the vehicle and then will head home. Now, there was no person-to-person proximity in this scenario, and although both employees were at the same location at the same time, it was not at the same time. However, as Employee 2 used the same vehicle as Employee 1, as shown by turning on the vehicle tracking, it is possible to assume that Employee 1 may have been exposed, as well as potentially 4 customers that were visited. Now, this may seem like a very simple example, but it is important to understand how person-to-person and person-to-asset tracking can assist you in proximity tracking and auditing to meet business continuity service obligations. To show how this technology works in ArcGIS applications, please welcome back again, Jonas.
Thank you, Matt. So, as Matt just said, safety of utility staff and customers is always a top priority. And in times such as these, this does require additional scrutiny and auditing of staff health conditions and activities. So I'd like to quickly demonstrate how the information coming in from those check-ins as part of the coronavirus business continuity solution, in addition to mobile tools like Tracker for ArcGIS, can be used for this purpose. So let's use an example scenario to illustrate this. I'm an operations manager, and now one of the first things I do each morning is check my personnel status dashboard and see what employees have checked in with symptoms. So here I filtered my dashboard results down for today and only showing those employees that have reported symptoms this morning. And we see that indeed one person has. So what I'd like to do now is understand what this person has been doing over the past few days and where they may have been exposed. So we've built an operations dashboard specifically for that purpose. And here we can see the location of field crews, the location of vehicles, and we can focus in on this individual that just reported having symptoms this morning. So the first thing I'd like to do is turn on their survey check-in results from the business continuity solution and see if they reported coming into close contact with anyone during their work over the past few days. So I'll take a look at the survey results on the map, and I'll filter these down to just show those surveys where the individual reported coming into close contact with someone. We see that indeed on Friday afternoon, they reported coming into close contact. So the next thing I'd like to do is review, okay, what did this person do on Monday? What work did they complete prior to reporting being symptomatic? So I'll add a few more layers here. I'll take a look at the completed work orders, and I'll also turn on the tracker tracks for that day for all the workers here in my current map extent. And I'll filter those work orders down to just show the individual who's reported having symptoms. So we can see the type of work they're performing, or they had performed, what customers were in the proximity, and based on that type of work, if they may have come into contact with anyone, start to prepare the customer service department to reach out to people if notifications do need to go out to customers. Now we can also look at the tracker tracks to identify any person-to-person contact with other utility staff. And we can see here that even though these 2 individuals were working in close proximity, they didn't actually come into contact with each other. But I can take this one step further and also turn on the historical AVL tracks. So I'll go ahead and look up this vehicle here, WT24, filter the map down, and then turn on the AVL tracks. And here we see something concerning, that even though these two people didn't come into contact with each other, they both shared the same vehicle. So we can consider this person to have been potentially exposed. Now, tools like this not only tell us about who else may have been exposed, but it also helps utilities determine and justify additional operating procedures that may be needed going forward. For example, cleaning and wiping down all the vehicles after use. So going forward, procedures like this will help keep utility staff and customers safe. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Jonas. What a fantastic demonstration to show how the Esri suite of analytics can assist our users both tracking people with things like RTS Tracker, but then also integrate and analyze this with other tracking information sets like AVL from vehicles, which create a higher accuracy proximity tracking analysis to help mitigate risk and adhere to an auditing requirements. Well, that's it for the demonstrations, and time is getting away from us. So I'm going to hand it back to Krista for a recap and wrap up with what's next.
Thanks, Matt. We've covered a lot today. RTS Insights had a strong role in our demonstrations, and if you're interested in learning how you can use RTS Insights to understand and respond to COVID-19, please visit our Learn ArcGIS site. The link on this slide will take you to learn lessons specific to COVID-19. The Learn ArcGIS site includes many other lessons as well. If you select Lesson Gallery at the top of this page, you can search for lessons that will help you get familiar with Esri products, capabilities, and data. We are past our 30-minute mark, so we don't have time for questions. As I mentioned earlier, we will answer questions that were submitted in a Q&A document. Thank you for joining today. All 3 webinars in this business continuity series will be made available to watch on demand. Next week, you should receive an email that includes links to each webinar. We hope you join us for future webinars.